When silence becomes rebellion, building unbreakable community armor in the age of DEI rollbacks. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Twyla Weaver, a revolutionary force in the professional development space whose work has fundamentally transformed how we understand resilience in hostile environments. Twyla isn't just a thought leader. She's a movement catalyst who has personally guided thousands of professionals through the treacherous waters of workplace discrimination. Her groundbreaking frameworks for community building and strategic advocacy have created seismic shifts across industries, empowering countless individuals to reclaim their narratives and forge new paths forward. What struck me most about our conversation wasn't just Twyla's brilliance, but her unflinching courage to name truths others dare not speak. Her ability to transform pain into power has literally saved careers, preserved mental health, and sparked movements that continue to ripple through corporate America. Today, I'm honored to share the wisdom gleaned from our powerful exchange of wisdom that might just change everything about how you navigate professional spaces. We've all heard the saying that the most dangerous threats are the ones you don't see coming. For years, we've focused our attention on combating overt discrimination in the workplace, the blatant racist comment, the obvious pay disparity, the clear cut case of harassment. These are important battles, certainly. But what Twyla Weaver revealed during our conversation was something far more insidious happening right now across America. The greatest threat facing Black professionals today isn't just overt discrimination. It's the silent dismantling of the very support systems and diversity initiatives that were supposed to protect us. Let that sink in for a moment. While public attention has moved on to other headlines, organizations across the country have been quietly rolling back their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. They call it restructuring or reprioritizing resources, but the impact is devastatingly real. According to data from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission that Twyla shared, there's been a measurable 10% increase in racial discrimination charges filed by Black professionals in the wake of companies scaling back their DEI commitments post 2020. This isn't just disappointing, it's dangerous. When institutional protections erode, individuals are left exposed. The safety nets disappear, the accountability mechanisms vanish. And suddenly, the burden of fighting systemic inequity falls squarely on the shoulders of those already carrying the heaviest loads. But here's where Twyla's perspective becomes truly revolutionary. She argues that in this new landscape, we must shift from relying solely on institutional protection to building what she calls community armor, collective strategies for resilience, documentation, and mutual support that can withstand the rollback of formal diversity initiatives. Let me share three key insights from our conversation that might just change how you navigate your professional journey or how you support others in theirs. First, the power of documentation. In an era where institutional protections are being eroded, keeping meticulous records of your achievements, interactions, and incidents isn't just helpful, it's essential. Consider the story of Marcus, a marketing executive at a Fortune 500 company who faced repeated promotion denials despite consistently strong performance reviews. As his company quietly dissolved its DEI department following corporate restructuring, the systemic bias became more pronounced. Marcus felt the ground shifting beneath his feet. The allies who once spoke up in meetings were growing silent. The informal mentorship that had sustained him was evaporating. But Marcus did something remarkable. He began documenting everything, every achievement, every meeting, every promise made, and broken meticulously over 2 years. He created spreadsheets tracking his contributions to company revenue. He saved emails praising his work. He recorded dates and times when he was excluded from key decisions, when he was passed over for promotion again in favor of less qualified colleagues. His detailed records became his shield and sword. The evidence he had meticulously gathered enabled him to successfully contest the decision. The result, not only did he secure his rightful promotion, but also compensation for lost opportunities. What's powerful about Marcus's story isn't just the outcome. It's that he refused to internalize the narrative that he wasn't enough. Instead, he created an alternative record, an undeniable testimony to his value that no one could dismiss. As Twyla emphasized during our interview, documentation isn't about paranoia. It's about power. It's about creating your own evidence in a system that would prefer you remain invisible. The second insight is perhaps even more fundamental: community as resilience. Isolation exacts a heavy toll, what Twyla calls the isolation tax, on professionals who find themselves as the only one in their workplace or industry. This brings me to the remarkable story of Melanin Con, a grassroots conference founded by Donovan Woodbury in Washington, D.C. What began as a small meetup for Black professionals seeking connection outside traditional corporate spaces has grown into an annual event attracting thousands. Donovan started Melanin Con after experiencing what he describes as professional loneliness so profound it felt physical. After being the only Black executive in three consecutive companies, he realized that isolation wasn't just emotionally draining, it was professionally limiting. Without peers to exchange strategies with, without mentors who understood his specific challenges, he was navigating hostile terrain without a map. So he created what he wished had existed for him. He rented a small community center and invited 30 professionals from his network for a day of honest conversation. The energy was electric. People wept openly as they shared experiences they'd never voiced before. They exchanged tactics for navigating microaggressions. They formed accountability partnerships. Today, Melanin Con offers workshops on leadership development, financial literacy, legal resources, and peer to peer mentoring sessions. Attendees report increased confidence navigating hostile environments, and several have launched successful ventures using tools gained at the conference. Within just 5 years, Melanin Con has become one of DC's largest Black professional gatherings and has catalyzed dozens of successful business collaborations among attendees. The conference model is now being replicated nationwide as a blueprint for sustainable empowerment communities that exist beyond fleeting DEI trends. As Twyla noted in our conversation, when institutions fail us, we must become institutions for each other. The third insight may be the most powerful of all: your story matters. Sharing authentic experiences isn't just healing for you, it disrupts cycles of silence and invisibility while inspiring others to step into their own power. Take Letitia Clark, the visionary behind Pink Parachute Diaries podcast, who channeled her experience with job loss, those dreaded pink slips, into building an unapologetic media platform celebrating Black women leaders. Letitia confronted industry wide underrepresentation while battling feelings of isolation after being overlooked repeatedly despite her qualifications. Her solution was radical in its simplicity. She shared her journey publicly, inviting other women into honest conversations about setbacks, resilience, and reinvention. Her podcast rapidly grew into a vibrant community where guest stories fostered hope, connection, and practical inspiration. After losing her job during economic downturns, Letitia recognized that silence was compounding pain among her peers. She resolved instead to amplify voices routinely ignored elsewhere. She has since launched dozens of episodes featuring high achieving guests, built partnerships with organizations championing equity, and received recognition from national media outlets. The impact has sparked ripple effects across industries, encouraging more platforms centering authentic narratives from marginalized leaders. As Twyla powerfully stated during our interview, when you tell your story, you're not just healing yourself, you're creating a map for someone else to find their way home. These three strategies, documentation, community building, and storytelling, form what Twyla calls community armor. Unlike institutional protection, which can be granted or withdrawn at the whim of changing leadership or political climates, community armor is built by us for us and cannot be dismantled without our consent. But let's be clear about something. This isn't just about survival, it's about thriving in spite of systems that were never designed for our success. The poet Audre Lorde once wrote, "Caring for myself is not self indulgence, it is self preservation, and that is an act of political warfare." In the same vein, building community armor isn't just about protection, it's about revolution. It's about creating new possibilities in spaces where we were told none existed. What's particularly striking about Twyla's perspective is how she centers joy alongside struggle. During our interview, she emphasized repeatedly that documenting injustice doesn't mean living in a perpetual state of vigilance or fear. Building community doesn't mean isolating ourselves from broader professional networks. And telling our stories doesn't mean defining ourselves solely by our hardships. Instead, these practices become pathways to greater freedom, deeper connection, and more authentic self expression. They become tools not just for surviving hostile environments, but for transforming them. I'm reminded of the African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. What Twyla is proposing is a fundamental reimagining of how we navigate professional spaces, not as isolated individuals fighting separate battles, but as connected communities creating new realities. This perspective challenges the dominant narrative of professional success as a purely individual achievement. It reminds us that even our most personal victories are made possible by collective wisdom, shared resources, and mutual support. It also challenges organizations to recognize that diversity initiatives aren't charitable concessions, but essential components of truly innovative and effective workplaces. The rollback of these programs doesn't just harm marginalized employees, it diminishes the creative potential and competitive edge of the entire organization. So, where do we go from here? How do we respond to this moment of institutional retreat on diversity and inclusion? We document, we connect, we speak, and we do it relentlessly, unapologetically, and with the full knowledge that our actions aren't just about personal survival, they're about collective transformation. I challenge you today to examine where silence has become your default response. What truths are you not documenting? What communities are you not building? What stories are you not telling? Because silence in the face of injustice isn't neutrality, it's complicity. And in a world that expects your silence, speaking truth becomes not just an act of self preservation, but an act of revolution. The tools Twyla has shared aren't just strategies, they're weapons of mass disruption against systems designed to isolate and diminish us. When we document, we create irrefutable evidence of our reality. When we build community, we multiply our power exponentially. When we tell our stories, we rewrite narratives that were never true to begin with. So I leave you with this. Your voice isn't just valuable, it's necessary. Your community isn't just supportive, it's revolutionary. Your documentation isn't just protective, it's transformative. In a world determined to erase you, your most powerful act of defiance is to make yourself undeniably visible, not just for your own sake, but for everyone who will follow the path you're blazing today. Thank you.